This stop, this is one of the most important stories to me. It is the People's Party 2. That is the Black Panthers Party, the Houston chapter. I was fortunate enough to connect with the chapter about 2 years ago because I started to write a play based on the assassination of Carl Hampton, which took place right here where I'm standing in 1970. And so I was fortunate enough to connect with two members, and they've been able to bring me into their history and the stories. Like we know Fred Hampton's story, I think it's important that we know Carl Hampton's story, and we should know everything that the People's Party 2 has done for Houston that we're still benefiting from. I would love for you all to listen to these stories and let it resonate and take a look at what we're dealing with today and maybe how you can follow some of these examples, teach your kids, share these stories, and continue on with where they're leaving off. And so I will be talking today with Mr. John Creer and Mr. James Aaron.
Yeah, they were there when the party was here. Yeah, see, the first office was on the corner down there where all the weeds was. And see, Carl was a musician, and his brother was a musician. In fact, his brother taught at Texas Southern. And if you go there, they still have some of his compositions in their archives. So Carl was a musician, and his group was traveling around the country. So he started doing community work with the party in Oakland. Before he came back to Houston, he asked could he start a chapter of the Black Panther Party here in Houston. And at the time, the party had expanded so fast, and you know, so they had stopped opening chapters. But Carl was determined, so when he came back down here, he got a job at the Sears, which is not there anymore, on Wheeler and Elgin, as a dishwasher to make money. He had an apartment right around the corner from the Sears, and eventually they leased a building on the corner, and that was the first office. And that's where the confrontation between Carl and the party and the police started, was right on that corner down there. Carl had pulled up to the office, and there was a brother outside selling papers, and the police was harassing him, and Carl walked up, and Carl had a .45 strapped to his chest. And he walked up and he asked the policeman, what's the problem? You know, and so the policeman, they first ran, well, what are you doing with that gun strapped to your chest? And Carl said, well, that's none of your business. I have the right to bear arms. The policeman started walking toward him, and he told them, don't come no closer. The police went to draw their weapons, and Carl drew his on them. He was a little bit quicker to the draw. And so they backed up, they called backup. But by the time backup came, people in the neighborhood had heard what was going on, and they were all, because Carl and the comrades, they went back into the office. And but by the time the police got here, it was people from all over that had heard about what was going on. They were standing out in front of the office saying, y'all ain't, gonna do anything with us. For about a week from McGowan to Elgin, you saw no police. And people came from all over the city. They came from Sunnyside, Pleasantville, Clinton Park, the North Side, black people. And they brought their guns. Maybe a month before that, the police in New Orleans had raided the Panther office in the Desiree apartment complex. So they came and trained the HPD on how to deal with it. So on that night, and unbeknownst to the community, like I said, I think the East Tex and then the St. John's Church, because that's where the police went on the roof. I mean, how do you get on a roof if you don't have a key to the building? So they were complicit in the whole thing.
The rebel was conveniently out of town.
Yeah, and he was out of town. The rebel was out of town, right? So they were holding a rally at Emancipation Park, was right across the street from the office. And this is on the 26th, July 26, 1970. And two women came down and told Carl there was some white men on the roof of St. John's Baptist Church. So Carl and Barty Hale, who at the time was he was a white revolutionary. They came down and to investigate what's going on. So they were across the street by the East Texas Cafe, and as they looked up and crossed to go over towards St. John's, well, the police opened fire. They hit Barty Hale in the arm. They shot Carl, because at that time it was two black radio stations, it was KCOH and KYOK. But one of them had a recording from what was happening on the roof, because it was four people on the roof. It was three snipers, police snipers, and it was a reporter who had interviewed Carl a couple of days before this. And so he was the spotter. And on this recording, you can hear him say, "There he goes." And then you hear these shots go off, bam, 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 bam. And then one of them said, "Did you get him?" And I said, "Yeah, we got that nigga." And it was a courageous sister in a Volkswagen. And she came and picked Carl up, took him to the hospital. Unfortunately, he died later, early that morning. But that night, and see, it was all planned because they had buses of police, like I said, was unbeknownst to everybody, blocks away. So when they killed Carl, then all these police swarmed the whole area. And Johnny Shotgun Coward, who was a member of the party, he got shot in the heel from behind. The police came from behind him and shot him in the heel. And Congressman Mickey Leland, at that time, of course, he wasn't a congressman, but he was a good friend of Carl's and a good friend of the party. He got arrested that night. You know, in fact, they swooped up a lot of any black people that was around. You know, they swooped up and arrested them, and they had a grand jury inquiry afterwards. And of course, they exonerated the police, said that that Carl had fired first, which was a lie. So, you know, to this day, we honor Carl, and, you know, we think about him all the time, and every year we celebrate his assassination and murder by the Houston police. This is like Fred Hampton. This is at the time. This is all the comrades that were killed during the time of the Black Panther Party. You got Fred Hampton, Mark Clark, both from Chicago. So.